What's up, comic book community? Joe here with another episode of 360 Comics. I am a little overwhelmed right now because I just bought the biggest comic book collection that I've ever acquired. It ended up being about 42 long boxes. We're going to go over the biggest keys that I found today. Stay tuned. If you have not yet done so, now is the time to enter our February giveaway to win this copy of Avengers Forever number 9. All you have to do is subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up for a like, and leave a comment down below. You can check out our other videos from the month of February, like them, and leave comments on them for additional entries. I'll be picking a winner live on Instagram this Wednesday, March 1st in the evening sometime, so make sure you enter soon. And also, while you're at it, go give me a follow over on Instagram because I'm giving this book away as part of our 9,000 follower giveaway. Haven't posted that announcement yet, but it will be coming soon, so make sure you are ready. Good luck. A little bit of background information about this collection before we get into the keys. Basically, this couple reached out to me and said, we have some comic books to sell. Do you want to come look at them? Of course, I said yes, and I headed over, and over the phone, I had thought that I heard 15 or so boxes, so I was expecting a pretty decent quantity, but when I got there, I realized I misheard. It was not 15, it was 50 boxes, and actually ended up being closer to 60, a mix of long boxes and short boxes, so once consolidated, it all ended up being about 42 long boxes, and they were all stored up in the rafters of the garage, so I actually had to go up on a ladder just to check these comics out. They were almost all still up there, just with a couple boxes pulled down. I ended up being at their house for about 2 hours just because of how difficult it was to, look at them while they were up there. I took some down. I was able to peek in some boxes from on top of the ladder, but, eventually, we did make a deal. I pulled the rest of the boxes down, loaded half of them into my car, and it took 2 trips to get them all back to my house, but very happy I did. Now, the majority of these boxes were just dollar bin fodder. It was a lot of stuff from the 1990s, a lot of Image, Valiant, Ultraverse, all that stuff that really doesn't have much value at all, but there was definitely some great stuff, so let's get into it, starting off with this book that you've been probably looking at right here, a very popular X-Men key. We have issue number 141, the first book of Days of Future Past. Multiple first appearances, probably most importantly, the character Pyro was introduced in this issue, and it is certainly a classic cover. In fact, one of the very last covers by John Byrne before he left this run just 2 issues later. And of course, to go along with it was this one right here, issue number 142, the second book of the Days of Future Past run, another iconic cover, and the second to last issue with John Byrne artwork. Moving on with some more X-Men, we're going up still in the Claremont run. We've got X-Men number 221, the first appearance of Mr. Sinister. This is a book a lot of people have been really, touting as a good option to pick up at this time before this character shows up. I think it will definitely happen at some point in the MCU, but it is probably quite a bit ways away unless they decide, Magneto's been so overdone, we don't want to focus on him. Let's put in another big bad guy. I think Mr. Sinister makes the most sense, and I would personally love to see that in the MCU. Then we got a couple copies of this one right here, and unfortunately this guy was picking up multiples of some stuff in the late 80s and early 90s that ended up, panning out as a good spec. There were, unfortunately, a lot of copies of Wildcats #1 and X-Force #1. Those did not pan out, but this book right here, the first appearance of Jubilee. There were 3 of them. Boom, all 3 right here. And this one, this one is a newsstand copy. Can't go wrong with that. And yeah, this is, kind of some stuff that I'm going to check out the grades for, see what they look like, see if there's any contenders. Maybe this book will get submitted. You really want to get this book in at least a 9.6, if not a 9.8, in order to, make it worth sending in to get graded. Anything less than a 9.6 doesn't have a ton of value, so I'm going to have to take a closer look before I make that decision. And a couple issues later, actually not within the same run, I mean, I guess it is the same run, but it's an annual. X-Men Annual, issue number 14. This is the first true appearance of Gambit. He is on multiple pages, I think like over a dozen pages, has probably a dozen or so speaking lines, says his name. Unfortunately, this has been labeled by a lot of people as a cameo for a long time because it was chronologically before the other issue, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, either way, it's a Gambit key. He's not on the cover, so that's what usually dictates the price here. And look at that, there were 3 of those as well. First appearance of Gambit. Only 2 of this next one. I shouldn't say only. I should not be a complainer here because having 2 of this book is awesome. We've got X-Men number 266. This is, some people, like I said, will call this the first full appearance of Gambit. In reality, it is the second appearance of Gambit, although first chronologically as far as the story goes. But this is the sought-after book mainly because of this amazing cover. Yeah, you know what it is. And once again, that is some stuff that I'm going to take a look at and see, is this something I want to get graded? Those Gambit books, a little bit more flexible on what's worth grading, probably down to like a 9.4, 9.2 is worth it rather than just that 9.6, 9.8. But once again, I got to take a look at them. Another great key here, X-Men number 282, first appearance of Bishop. It's actually the first cameo appearance, but he's on the cover. So once again, this is the sought after issue. And guess what? Not just 1, but 2 of those, and boom. Oh, sorry, 3 of those. I forgot. I thought there was just 2. 3 of them and a second printing. And I have mentioned before, I did a video all about talking about different 90s second printings. This one seems to have a much, much smaller print run and actually does hold more value than the first printing, both raw and graded. So you don't see these nearly as much. Always a good one to pick up if you can get a good deal on it. Then a little bit more X-Men, but from the second run, the volume 2, the Jim Lee run from the 90s, issue number 4, first appearance of Omega Red. You might have seen on Instagram just this morning, I posted 5 copies that I picked up in a collection. Well, this collection had 3 copies, 2 of them being newsstand copies and 1 direct. So, yeah, in the last week, I've gotten 8 copies of this book in. Not surprising, since a lot of people were speculating in the 90s, and this was the first appearance of a new character in this run. Great cover, classic story, and a character that I do hope they use eventually. Next up, we got new X-Men number 128, first appearance of Fantomex. I am crossing my fingers that this character shows up. I think they could do a ton with the character, and I really like this run as far as readability. Definitely check the new X-Men run out by Grant Morrison if you have a hankering for some really, really good early 2000s X-Men stories. Moving away from X-Men, one of the very few Spider-Man books. This guy did not collect Spider-Man, which is, you really don't see that. You don't see a lot of collectors that don't have Spider-Man or Batman, and this guy actually really was not into either of those. In fact, I think there was 1 Amazing Spider-Man book in like the whole collection, but this was the most significant Spider-Man book, Web of Spider-Man number 1, the first book of the 3rd Spider-Man ongoing series after The Amazing and The Spectacular. We had Web of Spider-Man in the early 1980s. Classic cover, great stuff. Then we've got some more Spider-related stuff. Amazing Fantasy number 1. No, not the Amazing Fantasy from the 1960s or maybe even late 50s. That's probably early 60s is when that run started. This is the one from the 2000s, and it features the first appearance of this character right here, Aranya, who Anya Corazon is her name, and she is a really great spider character who I forget if we're confirmed to be at least seeing her a little bit in Into the Spider-Verse, or that's just highly speculated on because of so many characters showing up in that. Can't remember if she's been picked out of the trailer or not yet, but this is a character that I think has some real potential going forwards, and I have a bunch of copies of this book already, so I may keep this one, or maybe I'll move it on since I have a bunch of them already. But Let's keep it moving. We got The Incredible Hulk number 449. You saw this just last week in a different collection that I picked up, a Hulk collection. This was in there for this one as well. And yeah, this is a really, really great book. You know, the first appearance of Thunderbolts. It's not the team that we're going to see on the screen, but it is the first time that name was used. And I think, that movie looks like it has a lot of potential. So fingers crossed that they do that well, because some of those characters were introduced in kind of an awkward way. Hopefully they will get their redemption. Moving to the next one, we've got Alias number 1, first appearance of Jessica Jones in comic books. I loved the character's portrayal by Kristen Ritter on the Marvel Netflix universe. I hope that they keep her in the MCU going forward. There's been rumors that she's going to show up in Daredevil Born Again. Again, fingers crossed. We've got some high hopes for things, but I think some of them are certainly going to come to fruition. Then, you know what? I'm going to move these down because the next bunch of books are Iron Man, so they'll all go together really nicely. This first one is Iron Man number 118. Yeah, 118. This is the first appearance of Rhodey, and you might be able to see it. It's probably kind of hard to see, but right there, yeah, look at that. Silver ink, signed by Bob Layton, cover artist for, the majority of the late Bronze and early Copper Age Iron Man stuff. And in fact, probably about 100 books in this collection, all Iron Man stuff, were signed by the cover artists. Most of them, again, were Bob Layton, but there were also some signatures by John Romita Jr., as well as Terry Austin. This guy, for some reason, really liked Iron Man, really wanted to get his Iron Man stuff signed. There was almost no other signed books in the entire collection, but yeah, there was over 100 signed Iron Man books, so really cool. So first, Rhodey. Obviously a pretty big key there. And there was a second copy of that as well. This one was not signed, but going to a couple more of the signed books, this one, definitely one of the most iconic covers in comic books. Definitely Bob Layton's claim to fame here, with this famous cover, probably his most well-known work. Demon in a Bottle, issue number 128. Classic story as well. Not even really a key other than it's just a classic cover and classic story. And there he goes. I think Tony was drinking too much and he fell over. Yeah, right there again, signed by Bob Layton in that silver ink. Same thing with this next one right here, issue number 150, signed right there. This is such another classic cover by Bob Layton. Great stuff. I think I had one more. Yep, one more signed Iron Man book right up there. Bob Layton. And like I mentioned, there were some John Romita Jr. and Terry Austin covers as well signed, but all the bigger keys really fell into the Bob Layton part of the run. Then we've got, there's another signed one that I forgot about. This is Iron Man number 225. This is the first book of the Armor Wars run. We're getting Armor Wars on the screen this year. Actually, I think is that the next thing to come out? Oh, no. Secret Invasion's the next thing to come out. I'm getting those two mixed up as far as timeline goes, but we're getting Armor Wars at some point. Will we see a return of Robert Downey Jr.? I don't know. Probably not, but still going to be cool either way. This one was not signed. We've got Iron Man number 282, the first appearance of the War Machine armor. Classic cover here. Really, really beautiful. And this is high grade too. So this one might end up getting graded. Got a couple more Marvel books, and then we are on to some DC. But first, let's talk about this one. Inhumans number 5. First appearance of Yelena Belova, the new Black Widow of the MCU. She's going to probably be around for a while. And I can only imagine this book getting hotter as we see the character become a more mainstream household name. I think that Florence Pugh does just a killer job portraying the character, and really excited to see her in some more stuff going forward. Then we got Blade. This is one of those sneaky 90s books that probably either had a low print run or something like that, because this book is expensive. In fact, during the height of the comic market, this book was well over $100 raw, and probably around $400 or $500 in 9.8. Obviously, it's calmed down a little bit, but it is still a really tough to find 90s book. So always look out for not just this book, but this entire run. I think they were just like really low print runs. So take a look for those if you ever are diving through some mid-90s stuff. Then we got this one. Late 90s, definitely a great key. Daredevil number 9 from Volume 2, the Marvel Knights run. This is the first appearance of Echo. We've seen her in Hawkeye. We're gonna see more of her in her own show, and there's some speculation that she will show up in Daredevil Born Again as well. And if you follow me on Instagram, you already know that there wasn't just one of these. There were 3 of them. Oh man, when 90s speculation goes well, it goes really, really well. That's a great book to have for the future of the MCU. A book that has taken a major tank down in price recently, but I have faith that it will probably grow again as we see more of this character. And the last 2 Marvel books, 2 of the same again. This guy didn't just pick up Echo's first appearance, also her first cover appearance, which is her second appearance, issue number 10. Amazing David Mack cover. Can't go wrong with this this Mack stuff from the Daredevil Knights run. Love all those covers. And yeah, we got some really, really great books right there. Moving on to some DC, but first we got some mishmash crossovers. We got Spider-Man and Batman crossover between Marvel and DC from the 90s. This one has a cool embossed cover. Characters pop up a little bit, and a pretty sought-after book, given that these are like kind of the 2 most popular characters in those 2 major publishers. And this was, I believe, their first like crossover book. And then one more crossover here. We got JLA and Avengers. This is George Perez goodness right here. Issue 1. This was a 4-book miniseries, but this is the one that you know, kind of a lot of people pick up. Honestly, people pick up all of them. They all have some value, but certainly issue number 1 with this great wraparound cover. Oh, I don't have the back showing, but either way, check this book out if you haven't yet. Definitely some George Perez goodness there. Into some more DC now. We've got a book that was a dollar bin book just a few weeks ago before the big announcement from James Gunn, and has since exploded. We got Creature Commandos number 1. This is the first time that I have ever owned this book, at least that I know of. There might have been other times that I had it and it just went away in dollar bins. But yeah, Creature Commandos number 1. We know this property is getting, I forget if it's a show or a movie. I think it's a show coming up in the next few years from DC and from James Gunn. This entire 8-issue limited series, which is their first solo run, was in this collection. So I got all those now, and I'll probably sell that as a set in a future claim sale. So if you're looking to pick it up, look out for that. Another DC property that has some potential going forward, The Flash number 92, first appearance of Impulse. No one really knows what's going to happen in the future with The Flash, specifically because actor Ezra Miller has been in all sorts of trouble and stuff in the last couple years. So, you know, is that a character and an actor that are going to continue in the MCU, or will that be replaced by, you know, one of these other characters, maybe Wally West taking on the role of the Flash, or Impulse becoming a more focused character? We'll have to wait and see, but I have high hopes once again. This one is great specifically because of this thing down here at the bottom. This is Green Lantern 48, the first appearance of Kyle Rayner, one of the Green Lanterns, one who replaces Hal Jordan when he goes crazy. And this is, like it shows down here, the DC Universe variant. This was a multi-pack thing. You could go to like Toys R Us in the 90s and get like a pack of comics, and a lot of them had these DC Universe logos on them. Not all of them did. If you need more information on the DC Universe logos, check out James from Mint Hunter Comics. That guy has a crazy amount of information that he has compiled on, specifically on the DC Universe logos and really subsequent printings from the 90s for DC books. He is a huge 90s DC head, having grown up in that time, so definitely check out his videos if you want more information. And guess what? Where there's one DC Universe logo, there's usually multiples because, again, they came in packs. This one is Superman Man of Steel number 18, first appearance of Doomsday, and this again is that DC Universe logo variant. Yeah, gotta check these out because in high grade, these go for big bucks, several $100s for a 9.8 of either of those books. So we're gonna take a look and see if we can get there. Oh, this next one's great. This is staying in the personal collection for sure. I mentioned there weren't many other books that weren't signed that were that were signed that weren't Iron Man books, but we got a COA on the back here because this book right down here, it's kind of hard to see. It's in gold ink down there. This is signed by one of my favorite comic book artists of all time, the artist that did the cover of Swamp Thing #7, Bernie Wrightson. In fact, he did issues 1 through 10 of this run, and that is something that I am looking to collect in high grade. I have all of those books, but I'm looking to bump my way up to some really high grades, maybe even 9.8 someday of those books. But this is a great book. First meeting of Swamp Thing and Batman. Batman is right on the cover here and signed by the cover artist. This is staying PC all day. Don't even think about asking me for this because I will shoot you down. I am going to be keeping this one in my collection for the rest of eternity. Anyway, moving on, we've got, here we go. This has been a good book recently. This is the sketch cover of Batman and Superman. I think it's actually Superman Batman is how it's stylized. Issue number 8. This is the reintroduction of Kara, Supergirl. As we saw in the Flash trailer recently, she will be in that movie. Very excited about that. That movie looks amazing, and she is honestly one of my favorite parts of the trailer. And you can see her kind of down here in the bottom. Kind of probably hard to see because it's the sketch cover, but she is down there, and it's her reintroduction, first appearance. Then we also have her on the cover of issue number 9. Both of these books have popped up really nicely recently. And then we also have a different one of issue number 8, different variant cover. This one does not have her on the cover. But I notice, actually, I'm just noticing this now. The Superman logo is blue. Is that a second printing? If you know, leave it in the comments below. I'm actually not 100% sure on that. I didn't notice that when I was going through these originally, but yeah, sometimes those second printings end up being worth a little bit more or even a lot more because they are often significantly underprinted. All right, then we got the Spectre number 54 right here. First appearance of Mr. Terrific. This is a book that I've seen on various channels being talked about. And yeah, it's been on the up and up recently. So, with that future of the MCU, the DC universe, we will see what happens there and how this book is affected. All right. Got a couple more DCs to go before we get to some indie stuff. And then, of course, the highest end stuff at the end. Oh, sorry, we're actually into the indie stuff before we get to the high-end stuff, but this one is one I'm so excited about because I've never owned this book. I have the trade paperback. I've seen the movie a bazillion times. We've got 30 Days of Night, issue number 1. Great stuff, and with just absolutely incredible art by Ben Templesmith on the front of that. And fortunately, I don't have to sell off both of these. I can keep one for myself and end up selling one, but I honestly might keep both for myself because I love this book. Definitely a modern horror classic, right up there with my favorite indie book of all time, Witches. Very excited to have both of these, and like I said, I might end up keeping them. There was also issue 2 and 3. It's a 3-issue run, so happy to have the complete set in there. Then we got Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, their first appearance in Saban's Mighty Morphin Power Rangers number 1. This one, be careful with this book because there is a, I believe it's a White Ranger card in the back, or Green Ranger card, I think, but it's often pulled out of there. Make sure that's in there, otherwise this book is not complete, not nearly worth as much. This one, fortunately, does have it. Then we got Transmetropolitan number 1. I don't know much about this book. All I know is that it is a really popular indie book and has some value. I think it's been optioned or something like that. So, this one just caught my eye, so I pulled it out because, I know it's a book that has some value to it. I gotta look up what the news is on that. This one from DC Milestone, so not 100% an indie book, but I usually put the Milestone books with indie stuff. We have Hardware number 50, the final issue of the run, and these were really low print runs, so you gotta be careful, because if you're looking through a lot of that stuff from Milestone, the middle issues aren't really worth much at all. It's really just the first issues and then the later stuff that was really low print run, because a lot of people like to collect the whole run, and there are far less of these. This book is crazy expensive compared to a lot of books from the 90s just because of the low print run, so be on the lookout for that one. And then we got this right here. Oh my goodness, such a classic cover. Garth Ennis's Preacher #1. And guess what? Again, not just one, but 2 copies of this book. And I'm pretty sure, maybe it wasn't the whole Preacher run, but it was like the majority of it in there. I got to go through and get organized and see what issues are missing, if there's any missing. But, either way, great stuff to have. And the last book before we get to the 10 best, the last indie book here, before we get to the 10 best books that I pulled out for the end, 100 Bullets, #1. Again, I think this went through optioning. I don't think we've gotten a series or anything like that, but definitely something that could happen at some point. So, keep on the lookout for this other Vertigo title. All right, moving on to the 10 best books that I found in this collection. First up, one more book from Vertigo here. We've got Why the Last Man, #1, Brian K. Vaughan. Super popular. It was optioned, turned into a show, and it only lasted, 1 or 2 seasons, something like that. Unfortunately, was not done very well, but nonetheless, it did not hurt the value of this book too much. Obviously, prices come down, especially from the comic boom, but this book has held value. Raw copies are selling for well over $100, sometimes over $200, and 9.8s are still hovering around $350, $400. So this one might end up going off to get graded. Got to see how well it cleans up. It's got a little color rub on it. Anyway, moving on to the next one, we've got The Incredible Hulk, #271. First appearance of Rocket Raccoon in comic book. Second appearance overall. But yeah, classic book. And just last week, this was in a collection that I got. So now I got a couple of these to sell off before the Guardians movie. And it always seems that when you find this book in a collection, this book comes with it. And no complaints about that from me. Incredible Hulk number 340, this classic Todd McFarlane cover featuring Wolverine and Hulk in the reflection. This whole McFarlane run of Incredible Hulk is, all the covers are really great, but this is definitely the most sought after and the most iconic one. It's been homaged an unbelievable amount of times, especially from a book that just came out 35 years ago or so. So always be on the lookout for that one. Then we've got Thor number 337, the first appearance of Beta Ray Bill. You guys are going to love this. One of my friends who, he watches the movies, he's aware of the characters, but he doesn't really read comics, so he doesn't know these kind of tertiary characters like Beta Ray Bill. He looks at this book and goes, why is that dinosaur wearing Thor's clothes? And I thought that was one of the funniest things ever. But anyway, first Beta Ray Bill. Will this character show up? We saw an Easter egg homage to the character in one of the Thor movies, but we haven't seen the character yet in person. Will we? Maybe, maybe not. I hope they do, because I know a lot of people that love this character. Then we're moving on to an X-Men book. X-Men number 130, the first appearance of Dazzler. It's also the second Kitty Pryde. But yeah, first Dazzler, and great book. I think it would be really cool to see this character, but a modernized version. In the comics, she was a disco star, which, there's not much disco around nowadays. So I think making her into some kind of a pop star would be really cool. There's been sprinklings of rumors that Taylor Swift is going to take on the role. I don't know if I necessarily want that, but I just think a really modernized, updated version would be really, really cool. Then we've got, oh man, this one is so sick. I was so happy to find it. This has never been in a collection that I've bought before, ever. Huge key here, NYX number 3, first appearance of Laura Kinney, aka X-23, in comic books. She suffers from what I call Harley Quinn syndrome because she first appeared in a television show, X-Men Evolution, and then was later brought into the comic books shortly thereafter in this. And then she came into X-Men, true X-Men continuity in issue 450. But despite that being out of continuity, this is the book to get as far as value. 9/8 selling for, they were selling for a few thousand, but they're down now to under $2,000. I actually picked one up recently for under $1,500. I think I paid like $1,200 for it. And I thought that was really, really low. I thought I was getting a really good price. And it's since bounced up a little bit in value. So, yeah, I got to see what's going on with this. It certainly looks high grade on the first glance. So this is probably one that is going to get graded because, anything like 9.0 and up is probably worth grading for this book. And I think this one has some potential to reach those really high grades. Let's take it down a notch, going from the 2000s all the way back to the 1960s. Daredevil issue number 4, all the way back from 1964, the first appearance of Purple Man. This character was on the Netflix shows, but has not made his way into the MCU. Will we see him? It's certainly possible. I really liked, what's that actor? The guy from Doctor Who, David Tennant, I think his name is, portrayed the character in Netflix. I thought it was great, and it definitely introduced this like kind of weird 60s character to the greater population. So, maybe we'll see some more of him going forward, whether it's that same actor or not. But either way, this is way higher grade than the one I have in my personal collection. So this is going to replace the copy in my personal collection, as is this next book. We got Daredevil number 3, the first appearance of the Owl. Great book. Again, another early single-digit Daredevil where he's in the yellow costume still. He was only there for the first 6 issues, as well as ASM 16, I think is the issue, or 13. ASM 16. So yeah, he only had 7 appearances in that red suit, or the yellow suit, before issue number 7. He's shown in the red suit for the first time. But yeah, first appearance of the Owl. Character that also showed up in the Netflix show. Kind of a different interpretation of him, but I thought they did it really cool, as a little bit, modernized. And again, this one's staying in the PC because it is higher grade than the copy that I originally had. Then we got this one right here, Daredevil number 2. We're going backwards here. This is the second appearance of Matt Murdock, as well as the second appearance of Electro. He was originally in Amazing Spider-Man number 9, and it also is the first meeting of Matt Murdock and the Fantastic Four. Although they do not meet in the superhero capacity, he's actually retained as their lawyer, as that is his day job. So, little meeting there of, some bigger characters. Will we see them meet in the MCU? We already saw Charlie Cox as Peter Parker's lawyer. Will we see them, in a role taking on the Fantastic Four's legal business? I don't know. Maybe we'll see him do that. But either way, Fantastic Four are coming. Daredevil's already here and going to continue on in the MCU. Fingers crossed, hopefully, for a long time, which is why I'm so happy about this next book. Yeah, you guessed it. Yeah, Daredevil number 1. Very excited to see this book. And initially, when I'm going through this guy's collection, I pulled it out and I was like, "Wow, this is Daredevil number 1." Like, this is probably the most significant book you have. It was by far, as you can see. There's a lot of great books here, but this is a major, major key right here. Daredevil issue number 1. It's low grade, but as I always say, low grade is better than no grade. You may have recently seen that I actually sold my Daredevil number 1 that was a 3.5. Well, I would have been really happy to have this in my collection, but I actually already replaced it and upgraded it to a 4.5. Shout out to Jim from Bronzeville Comics for making that happen. And I will be posting that on Instagram at some point soon, but I've been holding off on it. This copy, though, Very excited about it, but it is going to go to a new home. I already have a home for it, so if you're looking for this book, I'm sorry. It is already spoken for. One of my buddies, who is an employee at my LCS, is a huge Daredevil fan, has been looking for this book in low grade for a while, so we were able to work out a deal. So that is going to him. Anyway, we are less than 2 weeks away from Backdeck Comic Fest at my house, Saturday, March 11th from 10 to 2 p.m. Please come by if you live anywhere in the Philadelphia area. You can message me on Instagram if you need my address. 2 weeks after that is King Con in Isla, New Jersey. I will be there, as well as some other great sellers, including Very Gary Comics, Erod 212, Streetside Anthony, Bronzeville Comics, 3 Men in a Basement, Pressable Defects. I can just keep going on naming the different social media people, as well as dealers there. But yeah, definitely come out to that if you live, within driving distance of Isla, New Jersey. Also, every Wednesday night, I do a live show on the Experience YouTube channel. I sell comics for 1 hour from 9 p.m. to 10 p.m. And I have officially joined as a co-host on Comic Book Canon. We do a Sunday night live show from 8 p.m. until usually about 9:30, about an hour and a half long, give or take. Some days they're shorter shows, some days they're longer shows, but come hang out with us. Subscribe to Comic Book Canon on YouTube. I will put the link down below. I think that's it. I think I've talked enough. I need something to drink. My mouth is dry. I am parched. So until next time, turn the page, wash your hands.